Good afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to the 7th session of this Lunch and Learn series. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land and those of the land that we are on, the peoples of the Kulin Nation. I pay my respects to the elders past and present. Today we are looking at the award-winning Mordialloc Freeway, Australia's greenest freeway. Lauren Rowett will be talking to Daniel Kollmorgen about the inspiration and process involved in using recycled plastic noise walls and the challenge of increasing recycled plastic content in an existing product. 5,700 tonnes of plastic waste was used in the noise walls on the 9 kilometres of freeway construction, and that equals the plastic waste collected from around 25,000 households. So we're making a nice dent in plastic waste. This project has won 2 awards. Working closely with the McConnell Dowell Decmil joint venture, they've received the Excellent in Environmental Outcomes from the ISCA Awards and were the winners in the Contractor Excellence category at the Infrastructure Partnerships Australia National Infrastructure Awards. This is a 30-minute session again. We've got 10 minutes in that for questions at the end. We'll record the session. And thank you for attending. I'll jump straight in and hand over to Lauren and Daniel if they'd like to pop their screens back on.
Thank you, Cheryl. Hi, Daniel, and thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us today. So that's a really impressive list of accolades. So I guess, first of all, congratulations to you and to the team. To get us started, would you like to tell us your title and what your role was on the project?
Yeah, thanks, Lauren. Happy Friday. I think the project should be proud of what it's been able to achieve. I think back at the time I was leading the project during the pre-construction phase. I was the project director during the pre-construction where we went through our key approvals and EES process, and also during the procurement and tendering phase. Those things sort of happened in parallel. And then during an early activity phase, we started design, and I stepped back into the senior project manager role as we started construction, and I was looking after the southern section of the project during construction. Part of my responsibilities were to champion sustainability outcomes for the project.
Fantastic. So the Mordialloc Freeway, obviously a really big project and had a lot of really great recycle first outcomes, hence, you know, the label it's been given of Australia's greenest freeway. We are talking specifically about the noise walls today. So the walls weren't actually originally in the design as being recycled plastic. So can you tell us a little bit about how that came about?
Yeah, look, they weren't. During our procurement phase, we tried to set up our tender and our spec so that we were encouraging recycled and environmentally friendly products. In fact, in our spec, we had a requirement to meet an ISCA score, Infrastructure Sustainability Council score of 65, which is a tough go for a road project. So we set up the spec to try and encourage sustainability outcomes. And we knew that plastic was being used for noise walls prior. Penlink was a project, for example, that used plastic noise walls. During that tender process, PACT Group made representations to our tenderers, and unfortunately probably weren't price competitive at that point. And the submission we got from McConnell Dowell Decmil, who ultimately we tendered with and contracted with, included a Core 10 product. And that Core 10 product was basically rusted steel, had uprights at about 6 metres apart. And I think we didn't know exactly how much noise wall we had to have, because that came out of the EES process after the tender period had actually completed. So after we actually got the submission, we proceeded to start to design and build the the rusted steel solution. But during that time, Pact Group were also making representations and selling their ideas to our broader team and our executive. So our executive heard from them that this recycled plastic product included a 30% recycled product and was cheaper than other noise walls. So the vision and the direction from our executive was for Mordialloc Freeway to explore whether or not this product was suitable for use on our project. So that's what we did. We took the guidance and we invited Oz Group and Pact with McConnell, Dowell, Decmil, and the designers to present to us at our sustainability committee. And at that time, which was probably 2 or 3 months after the award of contract, they presented a 30% recycled product solution to us. And we could have at that time just said, okay, tick the box, all right, let's do that, give us a price. We didn't do that. What we did is we said, well, okay, if you've done that before, and we know that you've done that before, what else have you got? And they sort of ummed and ahed, and they said, well, we're working on this other thing. We're not sure we'll get to, but let us come back to you. So they went away for maybe 3 months or so, and then we had a further meeting, and they came back and they said, we can do a 75% recycled plastic noise wall product, rotation molding product. And they also went on to say, well, and not only is it 75% recycled plastic, about half of that is with soft plastics. So not just your recycled plastic from milk bottles and the like, but using Glad wraps and cling film and these types of things, which is something that had not been done before. And certainly at the scale, we're talking 30,000 square metres of recycled of panelling for noise walls. So we said, yeah, we're interested in that. We'd love to get involved in a world's first type of solution. So that's when we started to work with them on, well, how much does it cost? How do we, what are the barriers? How do we overcome those? And how do we actually get it to work? So, yeah, and that wasn't an easy thing either, because as it turned out, it was more expensive than the Core 10 product that we had. And we had some specific requirements that we needed the product to achieve. So the outcome of the environmental effects statement was a urban design review panel. So we had to get things sort of certified and approved by independent urban designers. And we'd already presented to them and had signed off from them the look and feel of this Core 10 recycled steel product. And what we were able to do in working with Oz Group and Pact was to get a product that looked and felt like the Core 10, because it can be moulded in any sort of shape. So the shape that we already had in our tender, we were able to replicate, and we were able to colour match and be able to go back to our UDIRT panel and say, well, I think we've got something that is environmentally better, but it's also something that hits the same targets as your urban design response that you wanted to see.
Yeah. So that's why it looks the way that it does, that kind of orangey colour with the corrugation in it, because it's modelling on that Core 10 steel.
Yeah, so that rusted steel look, it's meant to look like that. At the end of the day, that was a colour that was done for convenience to make it look like the rusted steel, so that we didn't have to get a separate approval on the look and feel of that product. The EES was quite specific around using muted tones and not taking away from the environment, because it's a very environmentally sensitive area. Yeah. So yeah, they we got that approved, and we didn't want to really change that approval. So it's worked well, actually. And that's the flexibility of this product. Really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really impressive, actually, that the supplier went from, 30% recycled content, which was quite, had been done before, to quite a big jump to 75%. And not only that, but to include a really problematic waste stream in those soft plastics. So this is really a new product because it's got that much higher recycled content. So you would have had to go through a lot of different testing and approvals processes, I imagine, to get across the line. What was that like?
That was difficult. The current Vic Roads or DOT standards at the time, they didn't allow for this type of material to be used as a noise haul. So we had to go through what they call a type approval process, and we had to get that material approved for the use as a noise haul. So there was a whole battery of tests that had to be done to satisfy DOT that this is a product that they actually wanted to, at the end of the day, they're the end asset owner, that they wanted to own and have as part of their suite of materials. Number one, they had to make sure that it actually did what it was meant to do, retard sound and have a acoustic benefit. It needed to make sure that it didn't sort of melt over time, so the UV stability was important. If you can think about noise walls that might get hit by objects, so impact resistance, fire resistance. If a truck and an oil spill or a petrol spill, it needs to meet all of those requirements. Thermal expansion, we've got a range of temperatures, making sure that it wouldn't, tilt posts or the like. Chemical resistance, fungus, graffiti, light reflection. It needed to have a design life of more than 30 years, and it needed to meet all of the structural requirements around these noise walls, so its own self-weight. There was a huge battery of tests that needed to be done, and the material ultimately passed all those tests. And I think what we were able to do, we had many asset owner, DOT, and their maintenance team, the project team, the designer, the installer, the contractor, the subcontractor, all of us were in the room together to work through the challenges of getting this material type approved, and also probably without DOT in the room, working through the commercial arrangements to make sure that we had a product that we can afford to go through with. And ultimately, at the end of the day, that's what we did.
Yeah, fantastic. You mentioned having everyone in the room there to get all these things through. So tell me, was everyone on board, or did you have difficulties getting some people from the project to sort of come along with you on the journey?
Yeah, look, it wasn't easy first. Our first reaction was, we know that this product is going to cost us more because it had already been investigated during that procurement process. So as a project team, we were probably the first barrier to entry for the product, because we were saying, well, actually, I'm not sure that this is the best thing. But when we turned our mind to the longer term advantages of the product, the location of the manufacturing plant is in Carrum Downs. It was very close to the project in that southeastern area of Melbourne. The Recycle First policies talk about local environmental and sustainable outcomes, and what we started to think about was, well, this might be an initial cost, but as we bring scale to the market and to the producer, and as we develop the industry, then market forces will naturally bring that price down and be competitive with the core 10, and certainly beat a concrete product on price. So we had to change our thinking from just us to thinking about the broader government targets and direction, and also how we could build that market going forward. And there was also some resistance from our head contractor at times, because it could have been, we already had an answer. It was hard to change. The easiest thing for us to do was to just continue with what we had, and even just continue with a 30% recycled plastic product. It was hard to go through a new process with a new product and do all of these changes and get all the ducks aligned to be able to move forward. So it took a fair bit of determination and commitment to get to where we did.
Yeah, absolutely. And such a great outcome from it as well. So definitely wasn't in vain. We've been talking a little bit about how it was originally Corten steel, and you mentioned concrete there as well. What are the differences or the advantages of the plastic versus those two? Is there, tell me about the installation, perhaps, a change in process for the installation in a plastic versus those business as usual products?
Yeah, so the natural thing to think about is the weight of the panel. So one of these 3x1 metre panels is about, about 70 kilos. So
that's the plastic version?
That's right.
Yep.
So much lighter than certainly concrete panel and even the Corten product. So being able to even use manual handling techniques to be able to place those. Many of them can fit on smaller devices to get them to where you need them on the site. So the act of installing them was a big win. Productivity rates and the like in installing them, and the risk away from the problems of safety and manual handling were there as well. But also longer term in terms of replacement. So if a panel breaks or fails in the future, it's much easier for that panel to be replaced from a maintenance perspective. Again, for the same reasons, because it's modular, it's 3x1, and those panels are much lighter.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, you spoke about the price is a little bit more expensive, but it seems like that almost could be, the cost of transportation and the cost of labour to actually install them seems like it could actually counteract that increase in the cost price to some degree at least.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as time goes on, we'll see market forces push the price down. I think no doubt, the issue for price with us is we weren't in a competitive environment. It was a variation to our contract. So that was part of the consideration. And also research and development was actually incorporated into that price as well. So I'm confident that going forward that this product will be price competitive and have all of those advantages against the other business as usual products that don't have the sustainability benefits of this one.
Yeah, fantastic. And I'm interested to know as well, so it seems the business as usual products, your steel and your concrete, they're much, much denser, obviously, than plastic. So how does a plastic noise wall actually work versus those much thicker, denser products? Yeah,
well, what it is if you think about double glazed windows, it's essentially the same sort of idea. It's two layers of material with a void in between. And the way it's manufactured is the same as they manufacture Easter eggs. They get an external mould and they put the material in the middle. They heat up the mould and spin the mould, and the material lines the inside of that mould. They cool it down, they break open the mould, and then the Easter egg or the panel is available. And I guess that's the beauty of it, is you can make different moulds. So like we use the wave type pattern on the Mordialloc Freeway, but that can be modified and changed to any pattern based on the mould that you create. And in fact, one of the great things about that was the wave pattern that we had this void, had this gap between the steel post and the wave pattern, and that was actually producing allowing noise to get through from one side of the panel to the other. And the recycled plastic noise walls they were able to make a flat point on the noise panel, so that instead of having a baffle plate, it could all be done in one solution, because we could make the panel fit whatever we needed to.
Oh, it's really interesting. So the way I understand it is that one side of the Easter egg kind of does all the vibrating and has all the noise, but it doesn't get passed on to the other side, which is on the residential side, I guess.
So if the noise is coming from here, this one vibrates, but there's a void in between, so this one doesn't vibrate as much, and that attenuates the noise going forward.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I never knew that about how noise walls worked before.
Yeah,
Learned a lot. So it's a new product. You've gone through all the work. It's gone through all the testing. It wasn't allowed in specifications before. Is there a plan to update specifications to allow it? Like, is there a future for this kind of a product, or is this a very much sort of a one-off? Let's just leave it as it is.
No, this is something that has got a fair bit of passion from MRPV and the broader MTIA family. The MRPV technical team has worked on a new standard with DOT in the off-roads type of format. So that's currently been approved by DOT, and it's in this space of in the process of being approved by Off-Roads. And we believe it's another first. It's the first in the world where a recycled or a plastic noise wall standard has been developed. So, kudos to the guys in the design and engineering team at MRPV for developing that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as you said, the molds can so easily be changed to be any shape. Plastic can be any color. So unlimited possibilities in what the noise walls could look like being made from plastic. So given having worked on the project, given the option or the choice, would you continue to work with this product in the future?
Yeah. Every time the evolution of the product, even in time and the scale that we're able to use it with, 10,000 panels of this project were produced. So there's a confidence that we can actually now get the production rates, a couple of hundred panels a day. So very, very confident that the supply is available. And now that we've understood the challenges with installing and erecting the panels, I've got no problem in recommending the panel and this type of product to be used in the future and on other projects. And I'm sure it's been considered.
Yeah, fantastic. I'm conscious of time, and I know we want to get to questions, but finally, knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently throughout this process? Or what is it that you wish that you knew going into this and getting this product across the line and into the project?
I think, part of the challenge was us, and it's taking that courage, and maybe we should have been a bit more willing to make a commitment early days to get the product on board. I would have liked to understand the production capacity of the material. So there were some challenges that we had to upscale some production there at some stage, and I guess we didn't. Would have been nice to know at the start of the project that we were able to have a 75% recyclable product during our tender period, and that would have saved a whole lot of dramas. But I believe that the industry and the project in MRPV has come a long way in making this product market ready. So I think the project in itself and the development we've got is something that future projects can use.
Fantastic, thanks very much. So what I'm hearing is open-mindedness.
Yeah, I think probably also planning to succeed. So
yep.
I mentioned in our spec, we wrote some things in our spec which were ambitious, and we planned to succeed. If we hadn't have done that, we wouldn't have been able to encourage our contractor to go for this, because they actually had an incentive in their contract. If they hit their 65 points on their ISCA target, they were able to get a performance bonus. So there were some things that we did that actually set us up for success and being able to move to this product without too much problems with the contractor.
Great, that's fantastic. Cheryl, have we got some questions from the audience?
Well, I think you're doing very well with all of the information. We've got one question, which I think you've probably addressed a large part of it. And I've also got a slide here I'll pop up while you're prepping this question, which shows a number of the noise wall designs. But the question is, I understand that it is lighter than traditional noise wall materials, with the quicker installation times a marked benefit. Did the project experience any cost and schedule savings from using this product? So I think you've somewhat answered that. And if there are any guts, maybe you can answer that now. That's the only question at this stage.
Yeah, I think, yeah, as I said, the challenge with the product is it wasn't built into our original price. And I think going forward, as I said, it would be price competitive. So I think certainly the challenges that we had on installation was that we had to do testing of the mold in the initial product. We had to do a mock test in the factory where it was developed so that we can build this 2x3 panel wall. And it's the reason why it was 2x3, because that was the original approval that we got for the spacing and the look and feel of the panels from a design review panel. So we had to mimic that design. So that there was a little bit of extra work that we had to do to make sure that worked. And then we had to do some prototypes out on site. But once we got into full swing of production and installation, it certainly beat the performance times that we were anticipating with the Core 10.
Great. Oh, another question. Sorry, I'll just have a look at that. Thank you for the presentation. You mentioned UV resistance requirements. Does this include the durability of colour?
Yeah, it does. So you'll have to forgive me. I'm not au fait with all of the the detailed requirements, but certainly we had to put the panel under UV cycling for, I can't remember how many hours, to test that it didn't fade in colour. So the answer is yes, and it passed that test.
And I imagine is that colour testing you sort of for the life of the panels, because they're have a lot longer life as well, don't they?
Yeah, so each panel here has got 40 years life, and it's probably longer than other panels, and yeah, part of our type approval process that we've got from DOT is to come back and check in that 1, 2, 5 and 10 year frequency to make sure that the panels are performing as expected.
Oh, fantastic. Okay, we've got another one. I understand this time you were asked to replicate Core 10. What else can designers or engineers do to see more sustainable walls going up?
Well, it's great that you've got this this up, Cheryl, because it shows these two ones in the middle there. They're plastic noise walls. So I think the limitation is really with the designer as to what they can imagine, because I think this product is so versatile and obviously sustainable that you could mimic anything. Before the Mordialloc Freeway, there was a trial panel that was put on one of the off ramps at the Monash Freeway, and it was designed to look like concrete. And if you go there and tap on it, you wouldn't tell, and even that you can tell it's hollow, but you couldn't tell that it was not concrete.
Right.
So I think you could replicate anything.
It's kind of the beauty of plastic, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah.
I can see this becoming the product of choice and a business as usual option going forward.
Fantastic. Well, we are at 1 o'clock. That's been a great session. I think you've given people such a broad amount of information, and it always seems with these sessions that it's about getting in early if you can, but also that cooperation and the teamwork and making sure you're working with everyone together, which is, such a clear message every time. Thank you. We really appreciate that. Mordialloc Freeway had so many initiatives, and we've talked about a couple of them during these sessions. Next week, we are actually talking about recycled plastic pipes, which I know Mordy put in as well, but we'll be talking to the someone from Decmil about the pipes they installed on the Hallam North and Heatherton Road upgrades. So that will be next week. Sorry, we've got another quick question, which I hate leaving questions unseen. Just very quickly, we'll address this. Just a couple of thank yous. That's great. Thank you. Just let us know if there's any more questions, please. Once again, email the Ecologic inbox, ecologic@roadprojects.vic.gov.au. You can jump on our website, which is on the Big Build website. And next week, as I said, we'll be talking about recycled pipes. Thanks once again to Lauren and Daniel for a fabulous presentation, and it will be uploaded next week on our Knowledge Hub. Thanks again.
Thanks, Sharon. Thank you, Daniel.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.